We're joined this morning by the director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts, Sam Amadi, and of course, it's an expanded conversation on the Ondo State elections, the trust in INEC, which I have spoken about a little bit. Good morning, Mr. Amadi. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, thank you.
Great to have you. I'm going to start with, something that I've repeatedly said this morning, which is the completely depleted trust in INEC. We've, had many attempts in the last couple of years, maybe in the last decade. One addition to the law here, one, new INEC policy here or there that, Nigerians felt maybe would build the trust, but that seems to have completely backfired. So talk about the trust in INEC and the trust in our electoral process as we head towards Ondo State elections.
Well, I think trust in INEC is a key component of trust in the electoral system. INEC is the electoral manager and responsible for most aspects of the election system. But again, the lack of trust in INEC has evolved to a point where it looks like total. The Afro Barometer report, which is the most credible African report on socioeconomic issues, said that before the 2023 election, that the trust in INEC, the electoral system, was 75% of Nigerians do not trust the electoral umpire. The same way 75% do not trust the judiciary. So you can see it's a very high level of public distrust on INEC. And I think after the 2023 election, you might expect a much high rate of distrust. Many things due to mistrust in INEC. Again, performance driven. If we watch over the years, INEC there's no electoral cycle where INEC has not, on evidence, objectively, suffered loss of credibility by doing many dumb things and deliberately. We know that elections cannot be perfect, so there are logistic failures which do not necessarily impeach the credibility of electoral umpire. They could impeach, to an extent, their technical capability. As a matter of fact, INEC has improved on technical capability, so we don't have to have very long delays before the logistics materials come into the electoral polling units. We don't have to see failure to do those basic things, get the materials on time, get your polling officers and other workers, ad hoc staff on time. So all those basics are being worked at. INEC has improved really. INEC has also improved in terms of even mainstreaming technology. Even before the IRF, in 2023, INEC has upgraded, keep on digitalizing its platforms, accreditation of voters, and several things. But where INEC has actually progressed is in terms of integrity, which is basically that component that tells you that the officials first will obey their laws, the officials will follow through in good faith with their laws, and if there are even gaps in the law, the officials will act in a manner that kind of closes that gap through affirming the central objective of their electoral mandate. So the integrity is both institutional as an organization and individual as staff of management or chairman or commissioners who have responsibility. In this particular sense of institutional integrity and individual integrity, INEC has zeroed out. INEC is more or less running like a criminal franchise right now. And so that's what we see over time. So people have now don't have trust in INEC. I think the highest level of some kind of guided optimism was the run up to 23 election. At that point, with the IRF, with the struggle, I will fought together with INEC to get an improved electoral act that somewhat does three things. First, it tries to create a sense of real-time electoral results, transfer, which basically deals with the most dangerous aspect of our election, which is collection. So that's the law that says you transfer, to the IRF, try to cure that problem by creating a kind of real-time second guessing of results. Don't forget that this build-up from 2019 crisis where INEC had a server, and when it was clear that something had happened, manipulation had taken place, INEC was asked to provide a server as as an evidence to show, to walk back from the backside. INEC claimed they didn't have a server again. And so 23 was act trying to cure that. Again, it tried to cure the issue around usurpation of candidacy. So made it clear that all candidacy of the parties must emerge from democratic primaries, and that INEC should supervise and ensure. Now, we saw that in many cases, the current Senate president, this did not happen, and INEC was even fighting with his commissioner, Mike Guinea, who rightly said election primary was held. I sent my people, this is the result. The Senate president who lost that election, and when we went back to Abuja, they cooked something up and did something and put him. So INEC said, look, the electoral commissioner has no authority. It's not authorized. So these are instances. At the end of the day, 23, INEC, without any explanation, shut down IRF, which was its own control guardrail to control and ensure that the incidences of collection officers, senior management officers, hooking up results, cancelling and mutilating and manipulating results would be very minimal, if at all. INEC got the legislative elections through, by the presidency. The opinion officers complained about wrong password, and it took 6 hours before. And then to go to INEC, then you see some posting like goat, like human object, not result. So clearly, it was really an election that failed at the level of INEC's deliberate failure. He went to court, and the tribunal, the INEC did not say, this is what happened scientifically. The Amazon Web Service provider came out and said, we don't have any glitch globally. Only one glitch happened globally, and they traced it exactly where it happened, not Nigeria. INEC's legal defense was, well, we are a commission, we could make laws, regulations, and we decided to follow it. Now, fast forward to Edo, and where we are now, going to Ondo. If you look at the Edo results, all the fight by observers, and of course, real time, if you look at the IRF, different result was used to declare winner, and now there's scrubblets going on. If you ask for a CTC, scrubblets, different things. So basically, if you are such an organization, then you've lost, you don't have integrity. Integrity about processes, about their procedures, that they speak to what they are, documentations, you can trust what comes from you, and then your officials themselves are trustworthy. And then you have internal system to overcome instances of conflict of interest. So if you are a resident commissioner in Ondo, for example, is somebody who is clearly, whose objectivity cannot be trusted in a particular election because of being a brother or cousin of a real political actor. You step that person back from that election for that election, because you want to create a clear perception of objectivity and impartiality. So the failure of INEC to be a credible umpire undermines the trust, the credibility of the electoral system. And the fact that today INEC is being, doubling down on partisanship in terms of the new appointments or nominations by Mr. President. And the president has, when they came in, they appointed 2 or 3 more persons whose partisanship are beyond debate. Now,
right.
In
Ondo State, what you just made mention to, there have been allegations about Lucky Aiyedatiwa submitting APC members, 2 APC members to every poll. And this is not the first time that there's allegation of one political party in some way trying to undermine the election, maybe because the resident electoral officer is a member of that party, even though he's supposed to be non-partisan, or he or she is supposed to be non-partisan. But so many points you've raised here, and I worry about what that might look like when we get to the polls. Ondo State, as at the last count in 2022, was about 5.3 million people, and currently, according to the reports, we have slightly over 2 million registered voters. What do you see this as? What do you see this to be the implication of the voter turnout at the elections on the 16th of November? Do you think that with all these factors, there might be some measure of increased voter apathy? Is that something that we should be looking out for in the Ondo elections? And if yes, what other factors do you think may have contributed to that, judging from the immediate past gubernatorial elections?
I'm going to see increasing decline in rate of turnover. I mean, the last was about 20 or 20%. In spite of the fact that the political parties were very, very active. Labour, for the first time, we have 3 parties fully deployed with resources, with enthusiasm and passion, and they campaigned vigorously. I mean, Peter Obi was there, almost moved for local government. The APC stalwarts were there. PDP, Atiku himself came in town. So it was really an election where, and the issues were very contentious. So you would expect spike in voter turnout. We didn't have that, understandably. Going to do, I produced the same thing, and the 2017 would be worse. Look, the fact that if just the way INEC is today, and the way the cynicism around electoral management, from INEC to courts, that's another area. The courts' failure to show some kind of courage and good jurisprudence that aligns with the democratic theory that elections should be determined by voters and not by officials who manipulate results. The courts have done nothing really to create deterrence against electoral manipulation. And so it has doubled the pessimism around electoral accountability, electoral justice. And so what we're going to see that people are not going to really turn out for elections that much. We had very low turnout even in 2023, comparative to the level of passion. And we have the young people mostly on obedient platform, coming, the number of fresh new registrants who are young people increased somewhat. But going forward, I think that except there is a major national awakening around a seeming revolutionary movement to take back power, you're going to see that the deep pessimism or deep lack of interest in the young people. Yeah. So the main people who still come out are those captive voters, old women in the villages, old men in the villages,
who they mostly target, and these are the people that the political parties mostly target to buy and sell, votes, in the elections. Quickly, we're out of time, but I want you to also speak on Professor Mahmood Yakubu. He has promised that that they have learned their lessons from Ondo State and previous elections, and that Ondo State people would see a different INEC this time. It says, well, we've learned valuable lessons from not only from that election but for previous ones. There are 2 main challenges. It talks about logistics and the second, managing results effectively. So, do you have any faith in Professor Mahmood Yakubu and what he's saying?
I think Professor Mahmood Yakubu is a very first-class scholar, but I'm amazed he's always learning lessons all the time. He learned lessons in Igbo, learned lessons in 2019. Please, the problem with INEC is morality, it's integrity and ethics. They will learn no lesson because they are conflicted. It's not a mistake. They learn lesson actually with logistics. They keep improving, but the lesson they don't learn is a lesson to allow the electoral system to work as designed. They never learn lesson not to allow politicians to use them to win the election. And I have no confidence in Mahmood at all to learn any moral lessons. I think he's smart enough to learn the lessons he has learned, but he's not credible enough or honest enough, doesn't show any level of integrity to learn the lesson he ought to learn. And the INEC as an institution, that this is not about him again. I'll keep saying this. We need to change how we recruit people to INEC, take away from politicians. INEC today is an institution that has very low ethical, ingredients. Integrity is very low, and therefore, every election INEC conducts in this present form will always be election that is manipulated. It's systemic. It's wired into the system, and it's high time we start to dismantle and create INEC in a manner that always reports required. Which is an INEC that's not been politically appointed, an INEC that will have that distance from politicians to do the basic things. Look, our electoral crisis is not high-end, it's not high-tech. It's basic. It's about human beings in office having the objective to first do the right thing, not human beings in office who are appointed by political actors to help them rig election. That doesn't require elementary 5% can learn this lesson, but INEC with PhDs can learn it because that's the way they're designed, and they are partisan, and they're there not to do fair for election, but to manipulate elections for whichever principle that they want.
Yeah, well, I guess, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, is just like the quote that says, life is, the biggest school, it keeps teaching you. And so he, continues to learn every new election, one thing here or the other. Sam Amadi, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Okay.
Thank you.
But quickly, before you go, we just got off a conversation with David Hundeyin. Pretty damning, revelations from the court process in the United States. Quickly share your thoughts with us on that story, and how, what does it say to you? Do you first of all believe in what David Hundeyin is saying, and then also, what does this signify for us here in Nigeria?
I think two things. I think what David is saying is credible to a large extent. So one may argue that being an asset in that sense might not necessarily be that you are CIA real designated spy. But again, being an asset in the sense he has pointed should be worrisome to us as Nigerians. And again, this is a problem with Nigeria. The journalists, apart from you guys who are having this conversation now, the media, the politicians, nobody is concerned about saying, what does this mean for national security? So I think his claim is believable. I mean, it's record. It shows that the CIA, of course, I know they have those implantations across the country. It's good to know whether he was doing that as a private person before he became political viable, in which case we can say, well, he used to be, but no, or whether he's continuing to be. That's an issue. And secondly, this is the most important one. We need to have a national conversation as to, even if it's false, if our president is being tagged a CIA asset, an active CIA actor or passive, it has implication for policy that the government is running. And so it means that there should be a real conversation. The presidency should, in the minimum, come out and state clearly what the issue is. The politicians should, in the minimum, come out and say, Mr. President or presidential handlers, please explain this. So we should have a national conversation. We shouldn't just behave as if we don't know the implication of the fact that a country's president is an asset for the security of our country. I know that the Americans have, they diversify their sources. There are real spies, and there are those who are probably giving information without knowing. I mean, if you look at the Wikipedia leak, you see that so many public officials who talk to counsel, who talk to general counsels of U.S. or diplomats, and don't know that they're putting information back. Those are forgivable. Those are, ignorant. Those are lapses that you see somebody mention maybe former governor drinking tea with the consul general and say, you know what, giving secrets. Those are forgivable as error, but that's if you are an asset who has an authorization and a source of information in a formal or semi-formal format, that's troubling. That's not a case of negligence. The Americans are everywhere on the world map, getting information using people involuntarily.
Yeah.
If people are voluntary assets, it has implications. And so this must be a conversation. There should be an explanation, and the politicians, especially those who want to be president in 2027, should lead in interrogating what this means for Nigeria's sovereign policy-making capability. The global economy is an economy of subversion, of espionage. They need to be sure that those who are making policy in their country are people who are dedicated to national interests, and those who don't have something that the foreign powers have on them that causes them to make these wrong policies and misdirect the country's economic and social development.
Yeah, all right. Thanks very much for joining us again, Sam Amadi. We look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much.